They told you the Super Bowl was a big winner ratings-wise. They said that Bad Bunny was having a great time in the halftime show. Then, they all declared the Olympics had grown like double in viewership since the last one. And would you believe it? Would you have ever guessed it? The NBA All-Star Game, also just about twice as popular. There's just one problem. It turns out Nielsen is counting the ratings completely differently, changing the way that they grab up those views. And folks will tell you, we don't believe any of it is true. The ratings are screwed forevermore. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel that shows falsehoods the door, bringing the truth with a capital T, served up on a platter of chatter, hot, fresh, and ready to go every day. We don't believe that the NBA is suddenly super popular, twice as popular as it was last year with the All-Star Game. Don't believe it. Not gonna believe it. And in fact, we believe that these crazy, stupid headlines are giving away that all of it, every bit of it, is a bunch of lies. That's our opinion. We're allowed to have it. Folks, if you'd like to know, if you'd like to see the receipts, stay with us. We'll bring it to you. We'll give you the beat. First, you click the like button and drop a comment down below. None of the ratings are real anymore, and Nielsen, I believe, has sacrificed itself at the altar of Bad Bunny, and it's not funny, folks. Goodbye, Nielsen. That's my opinion. I'm allowed to have it, and I'll show you exactly why right now. The Hollywood Reporter told us that the Super Bowl was just shy of the all-time record. Nearly 125 million people watched the game. Bad Bunny's halftime show was 128. Oh my! Then we were told that NBC had doubled or almost doubled the Beijing 2022 ratings for Milan Cortina. It says NBC's coverage of the 2026 Winter Olympics in Italy has been delivering some strong performance over the previous installment in China 4 years ago. NBC Universal has been averaging around 26.5 million views across all platforms during the first 5 days of the Olympics. That's up an astounding 93%. And ladies and gentlemen, you know that we've been telling you this is all bogus. Well, guess what? We got more stuff, because now they're telling us that the NBA All-Star Game suddenly out of nowhere hit a 15-year high. Oh my. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't believe any of it. We've largely disproven the Bad Bunny. We've largely disproven the Super Bowl. We've largely disproven the Olympics. And why? Because Nielsen changed the way that they're doing ratings. It's in the fine print.
Wait, you don't believe that within the span of like a week, the mainstream media channels didn't just surge in popularity?
I am struggling to believe that all of a sudden all of the sports stuff doubled viewership versus, hey, Nielsen also just started counting this differently. Here's the article, folks, out of the Hollywood Reporter. NBC's first telecast of the NBA All-Star Game since 2002 brought in strong ratings. Sunday's contest, which featured a USA versus World format and a round robin between three squads, drew 8.8 million viewers across NBC, Peacock, and Telemundo, based on preliminary Nielsen ratings and streaming data from Adobe Analytics. That's the largest audience for the game since 2011. And then they're even having to start admitting this because I'm putting pressure. There's a few others who are paying attention to this, but really we're just about the only ones talking about what nonsense the ratings are. They're starting to talk about this. They're starting to admit it. They say in parentheses, with the caveat that Nielsen has made several changes to its methodology over those 15 years, and most of those games didn't have a streaming outlet.
Aha.
Let me tell you the changes they made. Nielsen in 2021 started counting out-of-home viewing. That means that they just assume now there's some viewership in bars, airports, and other places, just out in the public, and they just assign the number. And then the second thing they just did this year is they're doing this big data panel thing. We'll bring that up in a minute. But do I believe that they went from, that they had an 86% year-to-year increase in ratings for the All-Star Game? Folks, is anybody talking to you about the All-Star Game this year that, no, you haven't heard anything about that? I haven't either. I haven't either. You can't believe any of this stuff now. And they sacrificed it for politics. They sacrificed it for politics. Let me show you when this started. This is when they began this. This is when they announced they were going to do it. Back in September, they announced they were going to do it. Nielsen begins updated era of TV ratings with big data plus panel for this fall's TV season. But they didn't really launch it out and start counting it until the Super Bowl. Funny that, eh? And what is it? What is this big data plus panel stuff? It means they're not just measuring TV anymore. They're measuring online. And guess what? When you start measuring online and you don't explain to us how it's being done, I'm just not going to believe that suddenly these things are doubling viewership out of nowhere. And that means, unfortunately, and this is the point of the segment, the point of the video, guys, I can't believe any ratings. We can't report on ratings anymore because they're not real, and everybody knows they're not real. I don't even know why we're talking about the ratings in these articles, because I guess people are just going to believe it, but it's not real anymore, Lauren. And they're not saying forthrightly. By the way, we're measuring this completely differently. This is apples to oranges. We're no longer measuring it based on TVs. We're measuring it based on all this online parrot analytics nonsense stuff. So, Lauren, it's over. The rating stuff is now over, and it's been lost to postmodernism.
Well, yes and no. It's over if you're going by the Nielsen ratings. What we really need to be watching now is the advertisers. Where do the advertising dollars go? That'll give you a better perception of how the viewership is doing.
And Samba TV is still measuring the same way, but Samba TV doesn't have anywhere near the power of Nielsen to measure this stuff.
It is not my intention to throw a monkey wrench into the works here, but
please do. If we're wrong, we're wrong.
No, you're not wrong. But there's the most brilliantly hilarious super chat sitting there that we really need to pull in here right now. Mm-hmm. Dr. Richard James, who gave us a lovely $2. All the new viewers came from Fulton County, Georgia. That is brilliantly
the
winning.
Greatest.
You win the prize. You really
that
do.
Is great. So okay, but Lou, you used to deal with ratings and Nielsen and all this, and it was really important, massively important. It's the authoritative determination of how a show or an event is doing, and now nobody knows anymore because it's a bunch of fooey.
Nielsen won by default. Nielsen developed it early. Nielsen created it early, and nobody wanted to catch up on them, technologically speaking. But now it's so easy to do that they have to keep their mentors, their masters, happy, and that doesn't necessarily mean by telling them the truth. It's really a disservice to the producers and the networks and everybody else. Because if they don't really know what their stuff is doing, how can they judge what to keep and what to dump?
My question is what does Nielsen actually gain from this? Because making this switch makes them less credible, which means that people aren't going to utilize them as much as they used to.
Yeah, but it's a case of it's a dirty little war, but it's the only one we've got. There's nobody really competing with them on the level that sponsors in general are willing to accept it, even if they suspect the numbers are being cooked, because it's all relative to everybody else. And if everybody's using the same numbers, even if they're wrong, then they're measuring themselves against a standard of some kind, whether it's accurate or not. You see what I mean?
But what do they gain out of that, though? Like that's what I don't.
I know the answer.
Yes.
The answer is Nielsen has been under tremendous pressure to justify these companies going into streaming. They've been under tremendous pressure to count streaming, and in doing so, for a particular reason. The particular reason is justify the decisions of these CEOs to go into this versus, well, what they were doing with broadcast TV. And so Nielsen has concocted up a new way to count in crazy ways viewership, right? That puts them on par with parrot analytics. We don't care about buzz. We care about how many eyes were on it. But now Nielsen is into this new thing. It's not like the old thing. And they're saying, well, we can't just count TV anymore because people aren't watching TV anymore. And therefore we have to watch, all this stuff. But it's so untrustworthy. But it's done to satiate the CEOs who have been saying, we're going to find somebody else, Nielsen, if you don't fix this. In my opinion, I'll put that caveat on it.
Yeah, that says it.
Lauren, Andy, hop in here, guys. The headlines, I guess, are going to say for the next year or so, that we've doubled ratings on everything, and it's all going to be untrue. But they'll run the headlines, and I guess people get tired of it eventually and say, well, I don't believe that anymore.
Well, I mean, who really outside the industry pays attention to that anyway? The general public does not care. All that matters is what eyeballs are actually hitting the channels. They have to report that to the advertisers, and the advertisers will make their purchases accordingly. This is actually good for the market, I think. They can spew all the nonsense they want. What will tell you what's happening is their actions.
Yeah.
But then, the nice thing for us is obviously being on YouTube and all that. We're always watching the numbers through when there's like a movie update or there's like clips or whatever. Like we can see all that information in real time. and obviously the genuine interactions on YouTube are far more substantive than anything we can see on like CNN numbers or sport numbers even. Because again, you're dealing with actual data, whether it's botted or not. Like, to still have like 100,000 bots like working to boost your views, that's fairly meaningful. But at the same time, like the reality is, big picture, I just think that we're going to be like on our side of things, because, and by we, I mean like Lauren and Valiant and Jonas and whoever else, because those guys are the brilliant numbers guys. They're going to figure out some metric to be like, hey, here's the correlation between YouTube views and actual revenue, and therefore we can now predict what this movie is going to make based on the fact that this thing got so many views on YouTube, blah blah blah, yada yada yada.
Well, what it also means is we're going to live in two different worlds. Those who know and those who don't.
Well, that's nothing new.
No, but it's going to make it, this is putting it into, because here's the deal about the ratings. Here's why it actually matters. No, the average person doesn't know what's going on. What in the world, Steve? The average person doesn't know what's going on. Steve will get back in here in just a minute. He's been flabbergasted, I guess, by the analysis. Steve, where'd you go, buddy?
I just muted myself. That's all I did. And then it went.
The ratings, no, people don't know that, right? The average person is not paying attention to the ratings. But what it does do is, for those of us who are paying attention to it and pontificating on it, it gives us a clue as to how popular something truly is, and then we know where the culture is.
Yes, when you're talking about third parties. But I think the thing that I would go back to is The Acolyte is a fantastic success. Star Wars fans love it.
Oh, yeah.
How well did that work out?
Canceled.
I saw something today saying that Avatar, Fire, and whatever is a huge success. Oh, yeah? That's why they're canceling the series, right?
But this is, okay, so this is why we're going to live in two different worlds, though, even more so. So there are articles all over the place telling us that first they said the halftime show for the Super Bowl was the biggest ever. Then they told it was the second biggest ever. Meanwhile, Samba TV, which hasn't changed the way they measure things, is showing a 13% decline in overall Super Bowl viewership and a 39% decline in the Super Bowl. And the Nielsen stuff is now telling us that this NBA All-Star game, despite the fact that the NBA has never been more unpopular than it is today, why it's the most viewed in 15 years. And so we're all going to live in two different worlds, where those who know what's really going on are going to sit here and go, no, this stuff is incredibly unpopular. And then the majority of people are just going to read the headlines and believe, nuh-uh, it's super popular. It's the most super popular. It's for cereal super popular. Oh my gosh.
You know, this is a result of what used to be industry media becoming public media. This is a result of the varieties and the deadlines and all these other sources of stuff, which used to be telling the industry what was going on, telling the world stuff for their own reasons. And if you don't think the people who really run things at the networks and the studios know better, of course they do. Of course they do. But they either ignore it because it makes their careers look better than they are, or they ignore it because they want all that public adulation. I don't know. I guess they figure if people hear it was a hit, they'll watch the reruns or something. But
the NBA is so bad right now that teams are tanking already to try to get the number one pick in the next draft, and they literally won't play. Like, they are trying to lose. So you have teams going up against each other who are intentionally attempting to lose against each other. That's the competition, is who can lose.
But what the measurement will be, how we'll really know, is the next time one of these franchises goes up for sale. Let's see what people are actually willing to pay to own it.
Right. But Andy, Disney's got to justify how much money they spend, and all these companies got to justify how much they spent on the NBA. So let's show that it doubled out of nowhere on the All-Star game because Nielsen changed the way they count it. Andy, final word.
I guess this comes down to what it means for the advertisers and the investors. And I wonder if there's any kind of like fraud litigation that can happen in there if they're basing their investment on what's being reported.
Start digging. That's all I can say.
Yeah, but see, that's their excuse. Well, we just, Nielsen is the standard. Of course we took their word for it. Ha, 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 ha.
The Hollyweirds don't understand how it is we do what we do, bringing you video after video every single day of the utmost highest excellence and quality. But folks, we do it because of you. We appreciate you. You are seen and heard here on the Pro Channel. Make your voices heard, folks, by doing one last thing before we say goodbye for a short time. consider clicking the like button. Share, subscribe, and you know what? That notification bell, click it and stick it to the algorithms. Also, drop a comment down below and let us know your thoughts. And don't forget, folks, we've got even more content on the way. If you'd like to become a member, it's just the price of a soda per month, and you'll gain access to all kinds of exclusive content beyond what the public sees, including archival footage of the Pro Show that goes away after just a few days from its public release. Folks, we hope we get the honor of spending time with you again soon, and until then, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.